just because you are.
So this is the beginning of my April 11th free branding clinic, and I'm so delighted to have Molly Gordon as my guest today. And I met Molly, I think about a year ago up in La Conner at a coaching event, and have been getting to know her ever since. And Molly, for years, or you could probably phrase this better than I can, but I know you did a lot of work with people on the business end of their business, including marketing. Like, I think of you as a marketing expert.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be great fun to have Molly on the call today, because people often show up at these branding clinics with marketing questions. And why not have a marketing expert answer them firsthand? And you also wrote a book. What was the name of your book?
Actually, in 2001, I wrote The Authentic Promotion, how to feed your bank account and grow your soul, or something like that.
Sounds really good.
And then The Way of the Accidental Entrepreneur.
Oh, so those are two separate books.
Yeah, two separate books.
I'm going to have to check those out. I'm looking forward to that. I wanted to just start by how I perceive the difference between branding and marketing, and then we're going to launch into talking with Molly. I think of branding as kind of the essential message of your business. It's the vision behind what you're doing. It's the values that drive your company. It's kind of a building block of what you're up to. It's the core. It's your core message. And marketing takes that message out into the world. Like, marketing is all the tools we have to promote our business and engage with clients and customers. And I think of branding as something that comes before marketing, but they go hand in hand. Like, you need to have both working for your business to succeed. Like, you want to be really clear about what you're up to and what your message is and the values that drive what you're creating. And then you want to take that in a really clear way into your marketing. And I found this one list that somebody wrote online, just like, there's so many marketing tools these days, but like, search engine optimization and content marketing and using social media and, traditional avenues like television, radio, print campaigns. Anything you would add to that, Molly?
I'm remembering way back in the 90s, early 90s, when I was researching this. I actually started doing this work in between 1989 and 1993 with artists. And there were two books. One was Guerrilla Marketing, and the other was Guerrilla blah, blah, blah. Guerrilla Public Relations, Guerrilla PR. And I really loved those books because they were very close to the ground. They were down to earth and lots of practical, simple things that ordinary people could do to get the word out about their businesses. And there are hundreds. You can walk up and down the street in a gorilla suit, passing out cards if you want. Marketing is putting flyers at the laundromat or on telephone poles. And I think that for me, marketing is being visible and accessible. It's showing up. And branding is knowing what you're going to show up as. It's like deciding what to wear to the party.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I see over the years, the way I got into this is I saw people, I was an artist, and I saw my fellow artists really hung up about the business side because it seemed like they had some idea that they needed to go to the party in a 3-piece suit in order to sell themselves. And it's like, no, actually, you can be yourself and market. So I'd never really thought a lot about the distinction between branding and marketing, but as I listen to you, Sandra, I see that a key to the way I always approached marketing was being yourself, starting with being the brand that's really you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the work I do with people. It's really helping them go deeper into understanding who they are and why they're creating what they're creating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and most people then aren't sure what to do once they're clear with that. And so I thought this kind of marketing conversation would be really great. Like, I love what you're saying, because marketing is so open-ended, and there's so many ways to promote your business or just get the word out.
Right, right. You know, I've been coaching since 96, and before that, from 87 to end of 95, I was a fiber artist. Where was I going to go with this? I've had a lot of conversations over the last almost 30 years with people, and the people I notice, whether they're artists or coaches or massage therapists or attorneys or architects, the people who get work are people who show up and talk about their work in the world. And it doesn't matter whether you're showing up on Instagram or you're showing up on the Safeway bulletin board or you're showing up at the Rotary Club meeting or you're showing up with free workshops at the library or you're showing up marching up and down the street in a gorilla suit. It really is showing up, letting people know I exist. This is what I do. I'd love to do it for people like you. And it's so very, very simple, really. Not necessarily easy. There's work to be done there. But I see people getting really confused. Well, how do I market? It's like, where do you want to show up? Where's your natural place to show up? And where do the people you want to serve show up? And I mentioned the party. Branding is like deciding what you want to wear for the party. I once did a handout, and I'll send it to you. In fact, I did a whole teleclass on marketing as throwing a party.
Oh, fun.
Planning a party.
Post that.
Yeah, and it was, I think I did a party planning wheel, and one segment of the pie was, who do you want to come? What's the theme of the party? What do you want your invitations to look like? What are you going to serve? And it was just a really neat way to think about marketing a particular event or offer, because I found everything could fit into that.
I love that. I love that. I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I know marketing isn't you've transitioned from kind of a business-oriented coaching practice into doing very powerful transformational coaching, but you have all this expertise, but you've done what a lot of people want to do, transition from one thing to another.
A few times.
Like, yeah, and many times, because we've talked about all the forms your business has taken over the years, and you've had some really fun brands along the way. Just what's that been like? Like, have you done anything different with your marketing, or was it just knowing your audience was changing?
Well, it's a work in progress. I think the biggest difference I see between me and the people I see worrying about their marketing is I don't worry very much. And that's, or I don't take my worrying very seriously. That would be more accurate. I worry about it a lot. I just don't pay a lot of attention to worrying about it. Way back in 96, when I started my coaching business, I found that I had a really hard time talking about coaching. I would get tongue-tied. I didn't know how to describe it. And I think we had this conversation once. I talked about what I did know about, the kinds of things my clients were bringing up in coaching. And I talked about what I was learning, and I talked about the things my clients were doing. And I didn't worry about being able to sell coaching. I just concentrated on showing up and being visible. My first niche was people who think Molly Gordon rocks. And that's still really my niche. And my job is to throw enough, I'm mixing metaphors unforgivably here,
That's fine.
spaghetti at the wall that some of it sticks. And over time, by throwing things spaghetti at the wall, I mean showing up where I feel like showing up, speaking, sharing, trying stuff. And seeing what sticks is partly seeing what do I like doing, what do I keep doing, what am I willing to keep doing, and what are people responding to. And so when I started to make this shift into a broader, more transformational form of coaching, I realized I was tired of, I don't know if I was tired of writing my newsletter or I just hit a wall and didn't know what I was talking about anymore. That's probably more accurate. And I decided to start making short videos. So I started posting 2 to 4 minute videos every week to Facebook. And I've been doing that now for 18 months. I like it, and it's beginning to get traction. What I did that is different from what a lot of people do is I didn't measure it. I didn't worry about, is this the right strategy? I was doing something new and I wanted to find out. For me, it's a finding out process. I wanted to find out who am I in this role? What is my voice in this role? Who am I speaking to? Who's out there? Who's listening? Who's talking back? So there's a kind of dialogue, I think. And I'm willing to engage in that dialogue and let it take time.
Well, I think that's an important point to make. Like, I can remember when I think most of you know my background's in design. When I was a young designer, talking to a photographer who was quite successful and asking him how he did it. And he said he'd been advertising in these sort of classic annuals for years, but they had studies that showed around year 4 or 5, people started to think you were legitimate.
Yes.
Like, there's a way that repeated contact creates a different impression.
It does.
One of like that you're solid and, you're not going anywhere. This is what you do.
Yep. I think that's absolutely true. I used to see that so much with press releases. In the olden days, we would actually write and mail press releases. And it just happened that when I was 16 years old, a long time ago, I was an intern in Idaho Senator Frank Church's local office. And one of my jobs was to take press releases from the DC office. They would call and I would type up the press release, and then I would retype it 10 times until I got it right, and we'd send it out. So I just by osmosis, because I'm a writer-reader kind of person, I learned how to do a press release. So I took that as a permission slip. And when I became an artist, I sent press releases. Molly Gordon is having a show. Molly Gordon opened her studio. Molly Gordon did this. Molly Gordon did that. And, nobody gives a shit. But if you do that for 2 or 3 years, people start to think Molly Gordon is somebody.
Because she's got a PR person sending out press releases.
A PR person, that's right.
I love
Who
it.
licks stamps. And one year, actually, the Seattle Times calls me up for an item for their art column. It's like, okay. But I was not only shown up and you get credible, but you become reliable.
Yeah.
And not everybody is a writer-reader kind of person. Somebody else would do it differently. But that was a huge lesson to me. It doesn't matter whether somebody cares now. They may care over time. And I liked showing up and writing, which is slower than, in my experience, slower than going and speaking to groups. Because if people can experience you in person, they tend to get a quicker feel for you and come to know, like, and trust you faster.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I did a marketing method that was comfortable for me, that I would keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
A method that's not comfortable for you, if you're not going to keep doing it, it's not going to help you very much. So I would rather take 3 years to build my coaching practice, which is what it took the first time, and have it work and be comfortable pretty much all the way. then what I see so many people do is spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars trying lots of things that don't fit, trying them for a few weeks here and a few months there, and then changing gears and changing direction. And 3 years later, they're $30,000 poorer and they still don't have any clients.
Right. Right.
And it's like, it may look patient, but I think it's just easier.
Well, and you're just giving such great, solid advice.
And I did, for those who wonder. Somebody asked me this the other day, and I realized it's an important piece of the story. I got a day job in there. Somebody offered me a writing gig, and that paid me, gosh, I think he paid me $2,000 a month, which in 1996 was a lot of money. Still a lot of money. And that gave me the mental resting place to trust my strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the first coach training I did, I know some of your coaches, they told us not to quit your day job because it just, it's not that it doesn't happen for some people that their coaching practices boom overnight, but it's not the norm.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't have to happen that way.
Yeah. And there's a very gentle experience you can have of building any business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So would it be okay if I opened up for questions at this point?
Yes, I was just thinking that.
I'm going to unmute everybody and see how this goes. I muted you all. Does anybody have a question? Carolyn?
I always have questions. Okay. Well, I think I could be a good cobaye. I don't know how to say in English, but if you want to use me as an example of how you work your magic. So I'm just going to put it on speaker view. This is, I think, my third year in business as a coach. It's not my first business. It's my third business. And in my prior business, I had retail stores in Montreal and a yoga studio. I was manufacturing my own yoga wear collection. And prior to that, I was a fashion designer doing high-end ready-to-wear. And I don't have any formal training in branding or marketing. And I had to kind of figure it out on my own. And what you said, Molly, earlier, that marketing is going out and handing pamphlets or whatever. We had to get really creative at the store with my girls because we didn't have any budget for marketing. So I've always learned to be very creative, and I think it could be that inner creativity. It could be a good quality to have as an entrepreneur. To how do you find solutions to your challenges when you don't have a lot of resources? So I do have something like 10 years as an entrepreneur. And so 3 years into this coaching business, I think I'm starting my third year. And I find myself already at a shift. It's not my first shift in my coaching business. I think in the first year I shifted almost as if I saw that I was ready to take my work to the next level, which sounds so cliche, but energetically it's what was happening within me. It's happening again. And I started to feel this shift last fall. And I keep having this vision, so I'll share my vision. Maybe you can help me with the branding and the marketing. But in my vision, I saw myself on top of the Dubai Tower, the Burj Al Arab. Okay. So that's very significant to me because I'm fascinated by this architecture, and the top is where the helicopter pad is. And I'm fascinated with helicopters. I'd like to have my own helicopter. Okay. But the vision of seeing myself on that tower meant that I'm feeling called to newer levels in my business, newer levels as to who I'm working with and how I'm working and who I am as an entrepreneur, who I am as a coach. And also thanks to the understanding of the principles where I've been smacked around with some insights lately, I feel the shift energetically, and I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like in terms of my website. Like, I've had so many websites in my life, and I'm ready to do a whole revamp again. And I was talking to Sandra also in New York, and I kind of call my work Awakening the Inner CEO. And she was like, that's the wrong brand for you. Do you remember, Sandra?
I did. Well, I just thought maybe, because it's in my coaching world, there's a lot of people who use that term, that there might be something more uniquely you that would set you apart. Like, a good brand is uniquely you and in some way differentiates what you have to offer.
Yes, I get that. And so where I'm feeling like I'm not ready to take clear action because I'm lacking clarity is that energetically I feel the shift. I see it in my coaching and how I work with women entrepreneurs. And I guess I don't know where to start to illustrate where I'm at because I'm lacking that clarity. Like, can you have clarity when you're in the middle of a shift? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you what I am hearing, and you can correct me. Or it sounds like there's some things that feel quite clear. There has been an energetic shift. You have a felt sense of that shift. Something has already moved. And you've got a sense and maybe a bit of a theory about what that's going to look like. And there's a lot you don't know. And so when you say, can you have clarity in the middle of the shift, what that means to me is, you can be clear about what's clear, and there's a whole lot that's not clear yet. It's like they're both true. Mm-hmm. And what I notice for myself is that I get hung up when I try to make meaning and clarity happen with the pieces that I haven't resolved yet. So the other night I had a dream. Actually, it was in the morning. I went back to sleep on Sunday morning, and I dreamt that I was in college and that I had blown off 5 weeks of improv class. And that in the dream, I was just going, that seemed like a good idea at the time, and now I'm thinking it really wasn't. And what am I going to do about having blown off 5 weeks of improv? And I had this kind of got to get my stuff together and get back on it feeling. So I woke up with a little bit of an icky feeling. And I've been wondering about the dream ever since. Now, whether or not dreams are worth exploring is a whole other conversation, but that comes to mind as if I force what that means, I can make that dream mean something for myself really easily. I can have a theory about what it means. And that tends to close down my sense of possibilities and create one experience. Or I can just be really curious about it and keep looking and let it keep opening up and find out. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's what occurred to me to say. I think from a marketing standpoint and a branding standpoint, like I said, for me, it's a dialogue. I put stuff out into the world and I see how it comes back. Mm-hmm. The web is so beautiful for this because when you don't have a huge audience, it doesn't matter.
Can I add something in there?
Yeah, please do.
Well, like one of the things I see with people in the branding conversation is like Caroline, who you essentially are and what you're up to doesn't really change. Even when you're in the middle of a shift, like I would imagine your work is deepening and changing, but your intention, the intention behind what you're doing and what you're creating in the world doesn't. Like, you know, and it may, what your offerings may change, but the core message isn't going to change. And like your marketing is going to reflect the times and how you change, and your brand also grows and evolves. Like, I like to think of brands as living entities, that they grow and change the way we do. Because even in the biggest of businesses, they are reflections of the founder.
I think you're right on the money there, Sandra. You know, my brand Shaboom is 20 years old. And it has worked fine through all the changes in my coaching practice.
Yeah.
It's had some different looks over the years, but the essential feel of the word and what it means to me, and the tagline, "Life could be a dream," that's about something in me and who I am and how I engage with the world, that was true when I discovered coaching. It was true when I got into business coaching. It was true when I discovered the principles. It was true when I was into Jungian psychology. It's just true about me. And that hasn't had to change. So you're absolutely right, Sandra, when it comes to brand.
And just as a footnote, there's a few of you on the call that aren't involved in, there's a philosophy that many of us on this call are immersed in called the 3 principles. So that's what we're referring to when there's mention of the principles.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can be clear about some things. And it might be interesting to wonder, rather than, it's like, what are you clear about?
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as you said that, it took the shift from out to in, which is where the clarity is and the alignment is. And you're right. I know what I'm up to. I have a strong mission and passion to work with women entrepreneurs around the world so that they become leaders. I call it awakening the inner leader, so that they can create what they want, whether it's a thriving business or to change the world. Back to the conference you did the other day, Molly, about the One Solution event, that is like calling to me, because it's calling to me, and my niche is more like women. Like, I want to work with women. I want to empower women to make the money they want to make, to do what they love, to feel strong and powerful. And that, when you were saying, Sandra, that you'll find that throughout your work, if I go back to everything that I've ever done, including in the fashion business, where my mission was for women to know that well-being came from the inside out, and that the clothes could just be a reflection of that. So if I look back throughout my life, there's this line, this thread of...
Yeah. And you can hear your passion. Like, listen to all that passion.
Yeah. And then what Molly said, what I saw was that, and I'm okay with my business shifting and what it looks like to shift. And actually, now I feel excited about it. Like, I can't wait to do another photo shoot so that the reflection of who I am becoming can be clear on my website. I'm very creative also, so I love playing with the online technologies and the videos. And I think bottom line, what's resonating most with me in this conversation is to be okay with having to recreate what it looks like, and trusting that the essence of who I am and what I want to do, my work, is something that I can count on. That would be my grounding.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that place of inner alignment and clarity, then I can think of, well, who do I want to serve? Like, who do I see as being my clients or the organization that I get to serve? Because I was talking to Michael Neal last week, and I was sharing a vision for my business. He said, it's all about you. I was like, oh. So that balance of, I guess, my passion and my work, but who do I want to serve and what's the impact?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Party do you want to throw?
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I want to throw an amazing luxury party on top of the Dubai Tower. Everybody's going to fly in by helicopter, and it's going to be champagne. We're just going to have, woo! We're going to have a party. We're going to celebrate our greatness.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Thank you.
That was really fun. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you. And then if anybody else has a question, if you just want to unmute yourself, I'm gonna try to it keeps the call a little quieter. Anybody have a question for Molly? I've got this amazing wise woman here. Jane.
Hi. As no one else is speaking up, I'm sorry that the screen keeps moving. You're on my iPad balanced on my knee.
Oh, it's fine.
Molly, I'd love to ask more about the balance between. I've got a website which I'm kind of sort of been working through and building, and it's really clear to me that the folks I want to work with are in the area of, I guess at the moment I'm calling it social impact. My background is as an aid worker and as an international development and running non-profits, and I really want to take the type of coaching and more understanding of three principles which you mentioned into that area. And I don't know how specific to make the text and the programs and the projects on the website, or if this is where the difference between the branding and the marketing comes in. So I wondered if you might be able to explain a little bit more about what a website would do, or or a different form of marketing would work in that instance. Does that make sense?
Almost, but not quite.
Okay.
Which I think is a vagueness that's in here, not over there, but just say a little more.
I guess it's about, well, a lot of coaches I've spoken to have said they don't believe in the thing about niches because we talk to human beings and we don't talk to niches.
Right.
And I guess that's the essence of the question, because I'm also really realistic. I've only just started in the coaching. I've only just started really with three principles, and I'm making this transition, and I have this ambition, which I guess is a longer term ambition, to really be, talking to people who are running aid programs overseas and supporting them in doing what they're doing more effectively, or in supporting someone who's running a non-profit and has all those pressures. But I also see that the people that I'm able to access and talk to at the moment might not necessarily be in that category. So to what extent do I have text and stuff on my website which is ambitious towards that end, or do I stay broader and say, if you're breathing and you like the look of my face, do you want to have a conversation?
Well, I answer that differently depending on the person I'm talking with. And I didn't have a niche, except the people who think Molly Gordon rocks, for 5 years. Because I just didn't know. I just didn't have a good idea. And then one day I was talking to a fellow coach about how I was going to talk about my work, because I had just taken another coach training that was amazing, and I had this whole new identity that was amazing, and I thought it was all about describing my work. And in this conversation, suddenly it flipped me around, kind of, it sounds like maybe Carolyn's conversation with Michael did, and I went, wait a minute, nobody cares if I'm a somatic coach or a blah blah coach or a wah wah coach. People want to know, can I help them with their thing? And in that moment, I saw for me that all this wider range of ontological and somatic and other blah blah coaching skills I had could really help self-employed people who thought they were allergic to business and were failing to thrive because they believed they were allergic to business, and that I could help them get over that. And that became my niche. And I will say that I found it easier to grow my business within a niche once I declared one, because I knew every week what I was going to write about. I was going to write about that. On the other hand, I had a pretty good time, albeit a slow time, building my practice when it was more general, because I was out there talking to people all the time. And even though it was very broad, it was also very specific. I would use specific examples like artists and helping people be clear with this kind of problem or that kind of problem. It seems to me that you've got some experience in life that uniquely suits you to help a certain group of people, and that you also really want to help that group of people, aid workers.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, go there. Why wouldn't you go there? And if other people fall into that, happen to catch your vibe and want to work with you, you can always say yes.
Yeah.
The image that comes up for me is that a niche, when you've got one that you like, and I can see by the smile on your face, you already have one and you like it. So it's like a searchlight. So go ahead and shine that searchlight out. Because a searchlight beam, although it's very tightly focused, is visible for miles. And there are lots of other people who are not aid workers who will spot that beam. And if they like the vibe of that beam, they'll find you anyway.
That's
Does
great.
that make sense?
It does. It does, and it really resonates. Yeah, it really resonates. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree from a branding perspective. I'm just going to throw in a little like that when you're that passionate about something, like it won't exclude people who just think you rock and want to work with you.
Yeah.
They're going to pursue working with you anyway.
Got it. Yeah. Yay. Okay.
That was a great question. Anybody else have a question? Anything on your mind?
Hey, Wendy.
We've got a couple of questions. Christian and Susie, whoever wants to unmute themselves first.
I'm late. I'm a late comer, so I'll let the other person go first. That's absolutely fine.
Oh,
I would. Sure.
all right. All right. So, Susie, did you want to ask a question?
Well, I just wanted to kind of make a comment to piggyback on what you were saying to the last person, because we have been, my husband and I have been relationship coaches and writing about relationships since 1999, and we've studied buco marketing advice. So at one point, it was the whole nicheify thing, and we said, oh, we're only going to talk to women. And so we, of course, created websites and programs for women. But, we have just decided now to just let it be. Because men keep coming to us and wanting help. And it's like, okay, we are attracting people over 40, 50. So that might be, something that we kind of narrow to, but it's like I think we were trying to artificially create something that was not, it wasn't really working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember about 2 months before I had the conversation. In fact, it was less than that. It was about 3 weeks before I had the conversation that turned the light bulb on me around working with self-employed people. I had done a holiday letter, and the end of the last year, I had an executive client, a corporate client, and I just loved working with this executive. So I thought, hey, in my holiday letter, I'm going to talk about executive coaching. That's going to be my niche. And I talked about executive coaching. 3 weeks later, I had this enlightenment experience around coaching entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs actually isn't a very accurate word for the people I was working with. But anyway, coaching self-employed professionals. Easy come, easy go. It really is. What I like about what you were saying, Susie, is you're allowing the people who are coming to you to have a voice.
Yeah.
You know, they know something.
Yeah. Yeah. And not be just wedded to, okay, we have to just talk about this, even though it's not going in the direction we thought it was going to go.
Right.
So we're more or less following wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know where it's going.
Might as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To do. Thanks, Susie.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say something really quickly on this subject?
Sure.
Like I hear from different people that it really worked to not have a niche, or it worked to have a niche, and I've seen that for myself also. I think it's important to clarify that everyone needs to find what works for them, because when you try to apply, that's why the whole niche thing can drive people nuts.
Yes.
But some people do need a niche, or else they don't know who they're talking to. So
Exactly.
yeah, bottom line, just listening to what you need. And if you're maybe feeling uncomfortable or triggered, maybe you need to look at that and see what needs to happen so that you have clarity within you.
Well, and that word clarity, I think, is so interesting, because it seems to me that a lot of the time, if we're making ourselves nuts because we're not clear on something, it's the way it looks to me is I make myself nuts because I'm not clear over here. And right here is something I'm perfectly clear about, but I'm looking for clarity over here. So I'm making myself nuts. It's like, I know what I want to do, but I think I should be doing something else. So I'm looking over there for my clarity.
Yeah.
I know I would love to work with aid workers. I happen to have a great background with aid workers. I happen to be really well designed to work with them. My face lights up, but maybe I shouldn't have a niche. Wait a minute. On the other hand, I don't know exactly who I want to work with. I feel like talking to everybody. I'm passionate. I'm a generalist, blah, 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 Renaissance person, but I need a niche. If it's making you crazy, it's probably not helping. If it's making you crazy, it won't stop making you crazy until you stop looking in that direction and let your mind settle and refresh. So,
oh my God, I am such an example of that, Molly. Like, I was determined to not have a niche.
Yeah.
And when I became a coach, and someone asked me, a very successful coach asked me what I already knew a lot about that I could bring coaching to. And I was like, I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going there.
I am not bringing coaching to branding. No way. Mm-mm.
That's right.
And it's mostly what people want to hire me for.
Yeah.
And I have kind of surrendered to that. Kristen, you had a question.
Thanks. Just had to remind myself how to unmute myself there. First of all, Molly, can I say to you, I owe you an apology. You very graciously reached out to me a few months ago, and I was supposed to get back to you, and I just dropped the ball there. So it's very nice to
it completely fell off my radar, so no worries. Thank you.
And I'm just I'm kind of almost at the opposite, end of it. I'm just interested in any thoughts. So I was a lawyer until about 3 years ago, and I was in a fairly senior position. I also had a judicial management role, so I did. And I thought that might be an area where I would work with people. I'd had my own experiences of stress and anxiety and alcoholism, back in the dim distant past. and that hasn't really opened up at all in that way. And right now, my I do some coaching, I do some facilitation, I put on events with other people, and I'm a consultant with a company. So I've got quite a broad spread, and but I'm just wondering, my insecurity is coming up. I'm wondering if I'm spreading myself too thin. And I was listening to the call when when I first came in, and thinking, what is it that I offer? And I guess how I would frame that probably is, helping people move from unhappiness to happiness, essentially. That's the bit. I've known a lot of unhappiness in my own adult life, and I've had experience of all sorts of therapies and interventions, but the 3 principles is just like on a different level. But I'm just I guess it's always at the back of my mind. I feel a bit of a jack of all trades. I'm just interested in maybe having someone hold a mirror up to me, or any comments.
Well, what do you want?
Good question. Well, I have to say, I was doing an intensive with someone the other day, and it was in the west of Scotland, in this beautiful hotel overlooking Arran. And I think, God, I'm living the dream. This is wonderful. And I'm loving everything that I'm doing at the moment. I guess I'm feeling, am I too sort of superficial and spread too thin? I suppose that's the question that's coming up for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really necessarily expecting you to answer it, but
right. Yeah, I think those are interesting questions, or can be. I've gotten to a very lazy time in my life, so I don't look at questions like that closely unless they really, really come up a lot. And then I ask myself, what are your standards? What's your basis? You get to make it up.
Yeah.
There isn't a rule book. There isn't a manual, and there's not as far as I can tell, there's no one who's going to say at the end of your life, Christian, those years between 2014 and 2024, I don't know. You actually get to make up how it looks.
Yeah.
And
I've got to say, this is the happiest I've ever been. Who knew that life was going to be so good post 50?
Yeah. So on the one hand, it sounds like it's really great. And on the other, this could be an invitation from some part of yourself to another part of yourself to fluff it up a little. I think a lot about life sometimes as a work of art. It's like, is this an invitation to create a new kind of painting with your life? Is there something you would like to do different because you'd like to try it different? Not because you're not doing it right, but is this a call from something inside you to try another kind of working with people? Or is it just a busy mind with throwing up ideas for the heck of it that you can dismiss if they're not useful to you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would just be really curious, and I'm often in questions like you're describing, and I'm just kind of curious about, what do I want? And what would be nice to create? And am I willing to give this a try? And I just make up different ways to ask myself questions. They're not even the right questions, but would working more bring more liveliness into my life? Does this feel like it'd be more engaged? Does this feel like it would be more of service? For me, often it's just, do I need to make some money? I need to make some money, I'll put something out into the world and I'll make some money. But I keep it pretty simple.
I have a feeling we're going to be reflecting on both your answer just now and other comments from the call after this call.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so much, it seems to me, truly comes down to what do we want? And there's not a law about what you're supposed to want. Sometimes I wish there were. Because I grew up with the sense that there were a lot of laws about what we should want. And so it's very disorienting to me sometimes to realize that I get to make it up. And then I get to look deep into my heart, whatever that means, and play with what shows up. You know, I was walking this morning, and it's springtime here, and we have gorgeous flowering trees, and the lilacs are just on the edge of bloom. And I don't know, that stuff these days just blows my mind. And I was stopped in my tracks looking up at this blooming cherry tree or apple or something. It was just the most amazing colors of pink and white, and the thought crossed my mind, that tree's not working very hard. Maybe I don't need to either. Because I'm often in these days in questions about whether or not I shouldn't be working harder, trying harder, doing more. And I don't think there is a final answer, but for me, seeing that tree opened up or ratified, confirmed something deep inside of me. It says maybe truly just being happy contributes to the world. The way that tree being beautiful contributes to the world. And that's the best I got.
Oh, it's just
Lovely. Yeah, lovely. And actually, funny enough, in the last year, I kind of switched from trying hard to just seeing what showed up. And, you know, I am essentially fully booked according to what, you know, I'm not looking
Yeah.
to be, but it was more that sense of, you know, it all just seems a bit haphazard.
I know. Well, yeah, tell me
I
about
get back in the driver's seat and crash into a wall again.
it. Yeah. Mine is very haphazard.
That's my experience with business too. Just I've had different businesses, and I've mostly been self-employed, and it just, I don't feel like I'm in charge ever. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Something else is guiding the ship, my little ship.
I think that's been true. There have been times in my business when I've been really, really busy and it seems to me working harder, generating more material, generating more content, generating more business, making more money. And that's been satisfying, but I don't think I've been any more in charge at those times. I was responding to what seemed like a good idea then too. It's just that what seems like a good idea to me now isn't quite so busy making. It's just different. Not better or worse.
I could listen to you all day, Molly.
Oh, thank you.
I think we have time for one more question if anybody's got one. Katie, was that you motioning? Let's see.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Molly. Hi,
Hi,
Sandra.
Katie.
So my question, I'll try to keep it brief, and it's sort of, some of it's been answered by other people, by the discussions that we've had, and it's a little, I think it's along the lines of the issue that Jane raised, which is about what I have to offer and what I want. And like I said, a lot of it's been answered already, but
coaching people through transitions, difficult transitions mostly, it seems. And so I have an idea for a brand for that, and I think we mentioned it to Sandra before, which was learning to fly. And my other role is in aviation. And I had a lot of thinking about, is there a conflict between the two? Because they're very different. Because I also had some ideas around corporate stuff that I could do in aviation. But in the process of this call, I've almost feels like that's dropping away. And what I really want to do is help individuals in transition. So I'm just if you actually even heard a question in there or not, but how to manage the two without one possibly affecting the other. Does that make any sense, or is that in my head? Is that my...
Yeah, it is in your head.
Is there actually a problem
That's
there?
for sure. Well, it occurs to me, and even though it's in your head doesn't mean it's not a problem. That's where all my problems come from.
I'm making it a problem, I think.
Well, it could be that if you know, what comes to my mind is I've got plants in my yard that compete with each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes one plant wins and sometimes the other plant wins, and sometimes the plants seem to coexist. And is it a problem? If you end up, what would make it a problem? What are your criteria for whether or not it's a problem?
I think it's a made up problem where I think it's just my thinking around. I've got my day job, which pays the bills, pays the mortgage, and I need to sort of somehow ring fence that and keep that separate and different, and until I've grown my practice a bit. And in my head, sometimes I think there's a conflict of interest in what I put out there because of what I do in my other roles. So that's the issue. And whether it's real or whether it's just my thinking about it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I don't know either, but it does seem to be something you could experiment with. Maybe try some things, have a conversation or two, to see if things you do to grow your coaching practice somehow impinge on your day job. In my experience, usually those things don't become problems, but they could. I mean, I suppose you could do something to grow your coaching practice that would really freak out the people in your day job. It's possible. But it's not necessary, and it's something you can baby step.
Yeah, I guess it's the kind of putting yourself out there, marketing yourself, feels so permanent, and, that's just something I haven't got much experience with, really, And
what I found out about that is it's so funny that, and certainly people can respond to things, but most people don't really care.
I know. That's why I think it's mainly in my head. But I can't work out if it's just in my head or if it's a real,
Well, how could you find out?
Well, I have spoken about some of this other stuff that I'm doing, coaching-wise with folks at work. But I think it's just, as you say, baby steps.
Yeah.
I think most of the people that I work with are not going to be in this field or anyway. So
that's my hunch. Is there's probably not a lot of overlap, and as long as your technical skills are solid, the fact that you've got some other skills, because I'm kind of guessing that some of this may be a woo-woo versus technical.
Yeah, very.
Will they take me seriously? And it's like, you can still count. You can still, do whatever it is you do. You can do a good job and maintain your credibility in one realm and still develop a whole other set of skills.
That is precisely the issue, and that's yeah. I mean, I know it's possible, but it's just a lot of
Actually, I'm not sure you do.
I know that it's possible for me, but I don't know the role of, how can I put it? There's a lot of, there shouldn't be, but I guess there's an amount of bravado and stuff in the technical stuff I do. So that's made up.
Yeah. Might give other people a little more credit.
Yeah, I know.
That's what comes to me.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
That was a great question, though.
It was a great question. And thank you so much for this opportunity, Sandra.
It's such a delight to have you here. And you can find Molly at shaboominc.com. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be posting this recording. And I also wanted to put in a plug. Molly does a monthly wholeness hangout, and she has a variety of wonderful guests every month. If you're interested in checking that out.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you all for being here, and hope to see you again next month.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Sandra.
Bye. Thank you.
Molly.
Bye.